London is one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the world. Over 44% of its population consists of black and ethnic minorities. Although culturally diverse, there is still a lack of minority representation in British culture. Racism, at a systemic, micro and macro level, still exists. Black and Asian Brits experience a timeline of racist events. From school to the workplace, there is still a systematic racism issue in the UK, and the prejudice is amplified in women. Sparked by the death of George Floyd in the US, the Black Lives Matter movement took the UK by storm. It became the biggest anti-racism protest in centuries, which welcomed the long overdue conversation about race. Amplifying and exploring the experiences of young minority women can continue to lift the barriers to belonging.
So I live and grew up in quite an ethnic diverse area, but I went to school about an hour and a half away in a completely different borough. So, sometimes I was actually the only black person in my entire class, so I felt kind of ostracized.
I went to Catholic schools where I was one of the few people of colour. People would just stereotype Indian people. They would mock the accent.
I did feel some racism, like people calling me a monkey, telling me to go back to my country, people constantly touching my hair.
I don't want to have to defend my race, especially as the only one here who could. And then also, I didn't want to bring it up in case the responses weren't entirely positive or people weren't going to actively defend blackness or whatever. And then I might just meant to ignore the fact that they aren't as pro-black as maybe they would like to seem. So I was just like, we just won't talk about it, I'm just gonna ignore it. But that was always a really impending thing that growing up, I was just like, I don't know how much you would really stand up for me and my race, but let's go out for lunch.
I was one of the few people of colour in my primary school and in my class especially, and I always felt kind of more out of place.
People were judging me or just looking at me differently.
King's College London has never been more disappointing to me in my life. It's actually appalling. Walking on the streets to go to class, 30% of the people I'll see will be black. I swipe my card to get into King's, it all disappears. I've been the only black person in all of my seminar classes. I think I've seen one other black person in a lecture of 300. I joined the Afro-Caribbean Society, and of course there were loads of black people there, but it was just you really have to put effort into finding black people in King's. And even then I felt like I didn't fit in, and that was one of the most disappointing and sad and kind of scary things.
I tried everything that I could to be as British as possible.
I think I definitely identify more with being a Londoner than being British. I think London is so diverse, and it's just such a cosmopolitan place. You can walk around in the city and all you see around you is culture. I'd say I feel most at home in London. And do you feel that I should really belong here?
I feel less stressed when I'm walking here than in France, but it's still not no, they are not racist, but you can still feel judgment around you. But if I want to identify in between France and UK, I'll say UK.
I basically overplucked my eyebrows to the point where they were so thin that they were just a line.
So I change my hair a lot because I'll have braids and then an afro next week, and then I can just do different things with my hair. And it was kind of amusing to me that people could never keep up, and people always did she cut her hair again or something?
really embrace any of my cultures or ethnicities that much. Like, we'd have cuisines from those various places, so we'd cook Indian food, we'd have Guyanese food, my grandma would always cook Guyanese food.
I wouldn't wear any gold, I wouldn't really partake in any ethnic events, I didn't learn many Indian dishes, and I didn't learn the language. When you grow up and you're used to that, you kind of do feel very ashamed to be part of your race.
In India, where my parents grew up, there's a strong culture of not wearing revealing clothing, and I think my parents struggled at first to accept the kinds of clothes that I would wear when going out with friends, and in the summer especially. And it took quite a long time for me to explain to my parents that I wasn't trying to be provocative or scandalous in my choice of clothing. That's been a different undercurrent of my growing up.
Celebrating it is something I'm still practicing. I think one of the small ways that I feel like I did that was like my last post on Instagram was just me being like, look at my afro!
Somehow I managed to have the willpower to keep them fit, and they've become kind of a defining feature of mine.